Marquez, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy lives and school and work to tell us about your family's story and just let us know all the things that are going on with you and share your insight as a family that has been through sudden cardiac arrest. So thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. So I'm Joe Marquez, and this is my daughter, Amanda Marquez. And Amanda has a twin brother named Ryan. And then my wife is Jan, their mother. So we live in Carrollton, Texas. The kids are sophomores. Actually, today's the last day of school. So as of today, now they're going to be rising juniors at Hebron High School in Carrollton. And that tells us a little bit about the Marquez family.
Amanda, I know that you suffered sudden cardiac arrest just a couple of years ago. Can you tell us when that was and what your memories of that day, that experience, what that was like for you?
Okay, so in August, it'll be 4 years since it happened. And so I was going to like my early volleyball tryouts for my middle school team. And we were just doing some light workouts, like barely working out, just like passing the ball to one another. And then I remember we all got into a really big huddle and we were just like talking. And then I was like looking over to my friend because like I could hear some ringing in my ear and feeling like a little bit off. But then after that, I passed out, and that's the last thing I remember after a week. And then the next thing I remember is waking up in the ambulance.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Did you have any indication during the day leading up to this that anything was going on with your heart? Did you feel off? Did you feel anything like that, or was it just sudden?
It was sudden. I thought it was just like a normal day. I did everything the exact same, and it was just had it happen.
You know, and that's actually a good point, is because we had no indication that this was going to be the case. In fact, just literally a week or so before, Amanda had tried out for a select volleyball team, and that had been 8 to 10 hours, you know, over 2-3 days of hard workouts. Yeah. And even that summer, Amanda and her brother were both for a week-long STEM camp at West Point, where they lived in barracks and they were going from site to site. So all in all, up to this moment, we had no indication that this was the case. There was nothing that would have given us insight into the fact that this was going to happen.
Nothing in Amanda's past, you know, as a child, nothing at all.
Super healthy and active.
Super healthy and active.
Wow, unbelievable. So Joe, tell me about your experience of that day. From the first moment that you got a call, what was that like?
Yeah, and it's like Amanda said, it was August the 23rd, 2016, and it was literally just the second day of school, but it was the first day of volleyball tryouts. And so Jan had taken Amanda because she had to go to school and for this tryout because it was going to be held before the regular school day. So Amanda was already there, Jan was already at work, and I had decided to stay home, and I was going to take Ryan to school before I went to work, which was kind of unusual. Otherwise, I would have been at home. So I'm at home with Ryan, and then all of a sudden I get a call from Jan saying, hurry to the school, the paramedics are treating Amanda. That was it. And the phone goes dead. So Ryan and I jumped in the car. I mean, it was a blur. We drove as fast as we could to the 1 mile to the school. And as we got out of the car, it's almost like in slow motion. You could see the teachers were waving us through the school. So we're running through the school. We go all the way through the school and then back out and into the ambulance. And as I'm climbing into the ambulance, there's Amanda laying down. Her shirt's about right here up. And I can see the electrode on her left side. And the paramedics are treating Amanda and saying, Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about what happened? Do you know who you are? Do you know where you are? And at the same time, they're trying to get some response from Amanda to show that she's okay. And I'm like, Amanda, I'm here. And at the same time, then all of a sudden the paramedics are like, we got to go right now. And Jan is trying to get to the school. I'm already at the school. And I'm like, well, my wife, Jan's still on her way. Can we wait that long? And they're like, no, we got to go now. So I got out of the ambulance and they took off. And as I'm running back through the school, Jan drives up. Ryan and I jump in the car with her, and we quickly get to the hospital where the paramedics had taken her.
When you first saw Amanda in the back of that ambulance, what went through your head? Did a heart issue, did that come to you? I mean, I know you saw the AED on her, but that really connect with you that something could have happened with her heart? I mean, it's such an intense experience. Was your first instinct that something had happened with her heart?
Barely. And truthfully, we didn't know much about sudden cardiac arrest. We obviously know about heart attacks because they're more known. But the reality of the situation is all I could understand was that something had happened and that they had to shock her heart. I mean, similar to what you would think of like in the movies.
Right.
And we knew that it was an incredibly dire situation because the ambulance said, later on told us, we don't have all the skills in this ambulance that they would have at the hospital. So we have to go now. And so later on, when Amanda's in the emergency room and they're basically watching over her, is when the paramedics came back to there and talked to us. And it's not everybody may know this, but an AED is like a computer. And in that computer is a hard drive. And from that hard drive, they can get a printout of what occurred. So that way, later on, the doctors that are treating the person can actually look at the pattern of the heartbeat in order to figure out what they needed to do or what was done. So they actually went and got a printout out copy and they gave it to us. And I have a copy of that to this day of the printout of Amanda's heart rate at the time when the AED was opened, when the electrodes were first put on 1 minute and 8 seconds after it was opened. And then within 8 seconds, the AED had already made a determination that a shock was needed. So literally you can see the very rapid pace of her heart. In 8 seconds, that AED determined that she needed to be shocked, and then a shock was dispensed, which essentially saved her life.
Thank goodness that it did. At what point did the words sudden cardiac arrest become a reality for your family?
You know, I would really only say after all of this had been done, and during those days, because it was 2 days of diagnosis at the children's hospital to get some insight into why this had happened, that the whole picture of sudden cardiac arrest, how frequently it occurs, and then how close we got with Amanda being saved in that time. I mean, it's approximately something like 7,000 under 18 kids will have an SCA out of a hospital on a yearly basis. And of that, only 10% will survive.
Yes.
That's what makes Amanda even that much more special.
Yes, it sure does. So Amanda's in the hospital, you're receiving treatment, you're getting all this information. What sort of treatment did you receive, Amanda, in the hospital to hopefully prevent this from happening again? And have you experienced any issues since your sudden cardiac arrest?
So they gave us like the EKG, right?
She actually had a series of EKGs and different tests, a whole series of different batteries of tests, because in order for them to know how to treat her, they needed to see get some insight into what had gone wrong. Ultimately, for Amanda, after a couple of days of tests, it was determined that there was no at this time, there is no medical reason to understand why it occurred. With that said, they simply can't put Amanda back out in the field and say, go ahead, go back out. So they gave her an ICD. An ICD is an implantable cardio defibrillator. In a sense, an ICD is part pacemaker, part AED, and part battery.
And then after that, nothing's happened since, which we're very thankful for.
Yes, absolutely. So no diagnosis whatsoever. Are you able to still be active, Amanda?
So I played volleyball for the rest of middle school after that, but then there's like a certain breaking point between how active I can be, and so like in high school, like I wouldn't be able to play volleyball anymore. So I took up pole vaulting and track, and it's just like a really short amount of running and a lot of like core and like skill based, and it's a lot safer than some other sports that I wouldn't be allowed to play, but it's something that I can keep doing and stay active.
I love that instead of just saying, you know, this is my life now, I can't do anything active. I love that you found something else to do that allows you still to play sports and do the things that you love. And how cool, pole vaulting. I want to go back into the gym where the sudden cardiac arrest occurred. What came together in that gym to help her survive?
Well, it's a wonderful program in that most school districts have coaches and teachers and principals that are all going through training and able to know how to respond to an emergency situation. Immediately, one person was focusing on calling 911. Another coach started the CPR while someone was sent to go get the AED. And truthfully, those three factors alone is what kept Amanda alive. That AED, without it, the chances of from 10% survival would have just kept dropping minute by minute.
Yes, absolutely. Amanda, how are you doing today? I know we talked a little bit about, you haven't had any symptoms since. How has this experience changed your life, changed the way you live? And Joe, you can speak too about how this has really changed your family.
So once it was starting to happen, the first year, I feel like I wasn't really understanding everything, nothing really clicked exactly. But after getting involved with living for Zachary, I realized how I can make a bad situation a good one and try to put my experience out there and help other people know more about it and how they can help. And it also just, I feel like it got our family some reassurance of just feeling more at peace with it, that we can actually help and try to make it something good.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to the wonderful words that Amanda said there. I mean, the first several weeks, obviously, after the event and after she's been released from Children's Hospital, Jan and I would find ourselves all throughout the night, going into her room just to see if she was still breathing. I mean, she has an ICD. It has a monitor. It immediately communicates any flare-ups or any situation straight to Children's Hospital. But as a parent, you're just constantly feeling yourself to be nervous. But Amanda's right in the fact that Living for Zachary gives us a wonderful avenue to give back, to meet other parents that are sudden cardiac arrest survivors, and to help to try to carry that message out.
I know that your family is particularly passionate about AEDs, and it's clear why, an AED saved Amanda's life. Tell me a little bit about why you're so passionate about making sure that they are placed in as many locations as possible. What is the benefit of that? Can you put that into words?
Yeah, absolutely. The AED is truthfully the saving grace on making sure that person will survive. I mean, after seeing that printout, I could tell that Amanda's life was literally in the balance. And without the AED, without some means to strike her heart, to get her heart to go back into a normal pattern so that blood could flow and oxygen could flow properly, Amanda would not have survived. A big part of that is the fact that even with AEDs, there has to be someone on the other end that's willing to pick it up, open it up, place it, and to try to give that child who's fighting for their very life a chance to survive. So I guess part of my message, and I brought it with me. As you can see, we actually were gifted this after Amanda's event. And it's important that the people that watch this video hear the opening words. From the moment I open this AED, it's going to walk you through the whole process. You don't have to be trained. You don't have to be some paramedic or some doctor or whatever like that. You literally have to just care enough to say, I'm going to try.
Stay calm.
And
follow these instructions.
It will walk you through the process.
Make sure 911 is called now.
So that's a very important message, is the fact that you got to try. These poor kids are fighting for their very survival. And so if someone's willing to pick up that AED and give that, you follow it as it's going to describe it, then they give that child a chance to survive.
How important is it that parents and caregivers and anyone who's spending time with kids, how important is it that they're CPR certified and that they're learning these tools, becoming equipped? How important is that?
It's beyond important. It's always something to remember that in Texas they have a Good Samaritan law. And in that Good Samaritan law that says, if you are willing to make a good faith effort to save a life, you can never be held liable. Now that only covers the liturgical side of it, or I'm sorry, the court side of it. But more importantly, how could you stand by? How can you stand by and watch a child, a friend, a neighbor, someone at the church? It doesn't have to even be a child, but without giving them a chance to survive. They're fighting for survival, and CPR, AED, be those kind of persons that's willing to step up and say, I'm going to do whatever I can to try to help that person.
Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story. I've heard you tell your story many times now, but to me, the factors that were in place when Amanda survived are just, it's an incredible and almost unbelievable story to tell, but we're so grateful that you're here to tell it, and we're so grateful that your family is such a wonderful advocate for AED placement and CPR use. So thank you so much for joining us to tell your story.
I love being here. I love helping, like living for Zachary with whatever we can do. It's like a good way.
It's a wonderful way. She's saving lives, living for Zachary, and we're going to keep doing that.